Yes.
It's double-sided. Dialogue is double-sided. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Still needed?
They say someone claimed to be a prophet, and they asked him, "Have you got a book?" He said, "No, I give handouts." In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am grateful to God for giving me this blessing of being here, listening to David was very energizing. He spoke very shortly, but he gave lots of important references and points that I'm sure you appreciated. So I thank you for this. What I thought maybe it's good for our Christian brothers and for sisters is maybe I give a little bit introduction to why we are so much interested in our relation with our Christian brothers and sisters, and then some reflections. I gave you a copy of my book, Unity of God and Unity in God, which is based on 3 lectures that I gave in the first round of Wings of Unity, and I will talk about it later. So I hope you would find it useful, because these are reflections after about 20 years of being involved in Christian-Muslim, dialogue with all my capacity, thinking, reflecting, and with heart, loving my Christian brothers and sisters. So some of my reflections are in the book that I gave you. When we were in Iran, we had very little contact with our Christian Iranians, because as you might know, the Christian population in Iran is very small. And in Qom, for example, where I studied since I was 17, I moved to Qom, we had no Christian at all. In Tehran, in some places we have, but compared to the size and population of Tehran, it's very small. So my understanding of Christianity was most based on reading and lectures we had on religions. In 1996, I went to the UK to do my PhD, and one of the things that we decided to do, in addition to my PhD, which was not about these issues, my PhD was about moral philosophy, about ethical relativism, but we thought this is a good time to do few things. One was to be more connected to our Shia brothers and sisters who are not Iranians. And one was to know more about Christianity as lived and practiced today. It took some time till we make first contacts, and it happened that our first contacts were some Catholics from Focolare movement, then Benedictine monks and nuns, but also my wife did her MA dissertation on Love in Christian Islam, and her supervisor was an Anglican. And also because one of the priests that I came to know through Focolare was Anglican, so we managed to know more about Anglican Church. Then I met Bishop Smith in Bradford. Then I went with my wife to St. John's College in Durham, which is for training Anglican priests. Then we came to know more about also Mennonites in Canada and North America, and we have several rounds of dialogue with them. So little by little, our relations grew. And more than 90% of our relations are also informal. I have sometimes taken part in some, conferences or, official rounds of dialogue between Iran, for example, and World Council of Churches, or between Iranian Shiites and Armenian Church. But that is a small part, because I very much believe in friendship and endurable relationship. So with the people that we have started dialogue, we now know each other for more than 20 years. Because I think many fruits of this relation can only come after many years of being in touch with each other and being able to really trust each other, love each other, understand each other. One of the things that we did was we visited Ampleforth Abbey in North Yorkshire for Benedictine community. And that was out of my desire for knowing more about Christian places of formation, because I come from also a seminary background, although I have studied Tehran University and Manchester, but I have also seminary background, and I look at myself more like a kind of seminarian than just academic person. So that was very good visit, and that led to many other visits. Sometimes 1 week we stayed in the monastery, and we made very good relation. In 2000, 2001, I was in London for 1 year after my PhD. I was doing my postdoc, but I didn't need to be in Manchester, and I wanted to also help the community in London. And Abbot Timothy Wright, who has passed away just a few months ago, So he asked me, Muhammad, and this is after several years knowing each other, are you happy to talk about Islam to our brethren? And I said, I am happy. So he said, what are you going to say? And I said, I give introduction to Islam and introduction to Islamic spirituality, and then end with some practical instructions given by Muslim mystics. I thought this is interesting for monks. He said, why you don't give 3 talks? So we planned in the way that I went 3 times from London to Ampleforth and gave talks, and we had discussion. Thanks to God, the monks found this presentation very much similar to Christianity and also to actually rule of Saint Benedict. They said, this is what we have in the rule of Saint Benedict. Of course, later, other groups of Christians also said it's very similar. In 2001, I was going back to Iran after I finished my studies in UK, and I invited one of the monks to come to Iran, and he said I should take permission from the abbot. So he went to the abbot, and abbot said, I too like to come. So both of them visited us in 2002, and then we planned on the way from Qom to Tehran, what would be the next step? And we said, okay, we are going to have a dialogue in the UK. So in July 2003, we had the first round of Catholic Shia dialogue in the UK. The first day was in Heathrow College, and then we went to Ampleforth, and we stayed there for a few days. And it was very successful dialogue. We had very good discussions. So intellectual part was very important, but also in a monastic community with prayer and with love. It was very beautiful. And this was considered by the tablet as the first major encounter of the British Catholics and Iranian Shiite thinkers and theologians. And this continued. So far, we have had 8 rounds of Catholic Shia dialogue. We have published 6 volumes. February 2017, Abba Timothy and I received an award from Iran's president for our work in dialogue. And last one was in Kenya. For the first time, we went outside Europe and Iran, because normally it was either UK or Italy or Iran. But in 2017, we went to Kenya so that we can share our love to Muslims and Christians in Kenya. And on the 28th of March, just in the next few days, we are going to have 9th round of Catholic Shia dialogue. But on the side of these, we have had tens of other meetings and discussions with the Catholics, many with also Protestants. Also, I had some occasions of having dialogue with Orthodoxes, but unfortunately, it has not led to an ongoing dialogue. But I have been to some also Orthodox countries, and we have had some dialogue. One of the strong connections that we have is with our Focolare brothers and sisters. You may know these are originally they are Catholics, but then they have lots of other Christian denominations. Even they have some Muslims in Algeria, for example. But our dialogue has reached a very good level of understanding, and because they are also very committed to unity, and we are also very much committed to unity, so we share our concerns. About 2.5 years ago, when I was in Sofia University in Lopiano, which belongs to the Focolare movement, I suggested to Professor Piero Coda, which is the president of that university and one of the famous and established Catholic theologians who works closely with Vatican, I said to him that we know each other for almost 20 years, as me and Focolare. I came to know Piero not in the first year, but relation with the Focolare is for 20 years. And we both are committed to unity. This is a very important part of my discussion. I said, it seems to me that we are somehow stuck. I don't know, maybe you have also this experience, I don't know. Many times when you go to dialogue, after a few sessions, they say, okay, we are friends, we have dialogue, we love each other, we believe in one God. Then, okay, what next? You also ask, how can we work together? So, I told Piero that I believe that if we really struggle for guidance, God will certainly guide us. It's impossible that God leaves people who want to understand without guidance. In the same way that He gives us our physical sustenance, He would give us also our spiritual and intellectual sustenance. But I said to Piero, I believe, maybe no Muslim, said this before, maybe no Christian said this before, maybe some people say this is, somehow a weak position, I don't know. But this is my honest position, and I say it not as a kind of weakness. I think actually it's a sign of confidence. I said, I cannot say to God that I have done my best for understanding your plan if I only discuss with Muslims and read Muslim texts. And you also perhaps cannot say to God that you did your best for understanding His plan if you ignore what Muslims say and have written. Let's sit and think together, not just talk to each other. We have talked to each other and we should keep talking to each other, but it's not enough. Dialogue is very early stage. I say, like, for example, a man and woman talk to each other to see whether they suit each other for marriage or not. That is dialogue. But when you marry, it's more than dialogue. Of course, some people may think it's monologue. But I say it's unity. Unity is more than dialogue. We, with Christians, cannot just be pleased with having dialogue. We have to establish unity and then listen together to God. This is our monologue. We silence our ego. And I very much wholeheartedly believe that we religious people have sometimes religious ego. Personal ego is difficult to get rid of, but it is possible. Religious ego is almost impossible to get rid of. You have to be really, really sincere to get rid of even religious ego. What is religious ego? Is that you want your religion be at the top. Your religious community to be on the top. But you don't say, this is what I want. You say, this is what God wants. Instead of you becoming a godly person, you make God a tribal or sectarian God. When God becomes God of a tribe, then other tribes are competitors. Either you tolerate them or you get rid of them. But you don't say, I want to get rid of them, because no one would listen to you if you say, I want to get it. Say, God wants this. For glory of God, let's kill them. For glory of God, let's take their land. This is religious ego. And this is actually sometimes more dangerous than people who have no faith. Because people have no faith, sometimes there is a limit in what they can demand. Unless they have really stupid people around that listen to them, whatever they say. But most of people are not that stupid, so they ask, on what basis we have to listen to you? Why I should, listen to you and kill people? But when you are a religious leader, and if you have managed to suffer the same ego, it's very easy to tell people, for the sake of God, we should get rid of other people. So, we need to silence our ego. Even religious ego. And listen to God. But I believe, if I listen to God with Muslim ear only, maybe I don't get everything. Not because there is a problem in Islam, because there is a problem in my understanding. I don't have all the wisdom and all the knowledge. If Christians also only listen to God with Christian ear, they don't get everything. But if we Muslims and Christians listen to God, then we will get a stereo, very good quality guidance from God. Maybe something is in your wisdom, your tradition, your experience, I can learn. Maybe I have something you can learn. But more than this, which is available, we create a greater space between us to receive more guidance from the Holy Spirit. So, when I suggested this to Piero, that let's get together and ask God to guide us, he was very happy. And later, he said that I felt that this is will of God that we do this. So he asked me, what should we call this? I said, without thinking in advance, Wings of Unity. And he very much liked it. So we called this project Wings of Unity. A bird cannot fly with one wing, even if it's very big. But even if you have two small wings, you can fly, if you are in harmony. I believe the responsibility of Christians and Muslims together is huge. We have to work together. Unfortunately, in the course of history, most of the time, Muslims did whatever they did on their own. Christians did whatever they did on their own. We didn't cooperate for faith. Yes, we did business with each other. We did trade, maybe some scientific exchange. But I don't know of many cases that Muslims and Christians work together to promote faith. Muslims did on their own, Christians on their own, and sometimes even they looked at each other as rivals. Not as colleagues, as rivals. Like two people who are fighting on one market. If you want to get this market, you have to get rid of the other supplier. So we looked at each other many times as rivals. I think that was a big mistake. And at least now we should not continue. In my humble understanding, challenges that we face today are so great that no faith community can stand by its own. If Christians want to work together only, or Muslims only, we are not going to succeed. I believe that all believers in God should work together. And we should show the power of faith and love for God through our joint witness. We should show people how our faith in God has managed to unite us and bring love among us so that then we can offer this love to others. Otherwise, people say your faith has not done any good to you. You are close-minded people. You are sectarian. You are, selfish. Why you want to come and, talk to us about God? So, we decided to continue with this, and we decided to also have some opportunities for some youths, Christian youths and Muslim youths, to listen to a united message that we had. We had a very good program in August 2017 in Tonardico, northern Italy. Then in April 2018 in Lopiano and in Rome. In December in Lopiano and Trento. And now also, before coming here, we had a very good program in Monte. So we tried to work together and offer it to our youths, and thanks to God, we had very, very good results. So, how much time I have? 5 minutes? Very good. Yes, that is exactly what I want. So, now I want to share with you a few ideas that I say to my Muslim brothers and sisters, why I am so much interested in dialogue with Christians. I am very much interested in dialogue with Jews, and I am also interested in dialogue with any human being. But I think there is a special significance in Muslim-Christian relation. Part of the reasons for dialogue between Islam and Christianity can be found in other places. But I have lots of reason to think that we should invest on bringing Muslims and Christians closer to each other, more than other people. So we work on all levels of unity which are possible, but here we have great potential. One point, which is a practical matter that many people may say, is that, okay, if you consider the population of the world, Muslims and Christians are already more than half population of the world. So if they have good relation, so the majority of the people of the world have good relation. But not only in population, we are more than half population of the world, but when it comes to intellectual heritage, we are more than half. The impact that Muslims and Christians have on human discourse is more than 50-60%, because others sometimes are not organized, or they don't have deep theological or a spiritual legacy. Some of them, some have. But anyway, we are more than just population that we represent. There are many institutions that we have, lots of scholarship that we have. We can do a lot for humanity, more than our heads. But this is a practical thing. I want to mention some theological things. One is the way the Quran talks to me as a Muslim about Christianity. I see there is something special here. First of all, you can find this in the book. I don't have time to expand, but very briefly, the way I understand the Quran is that God has not sent different religions. God has sent only one religion and one book. There are different stages. It's a one river, different stages. One book, different editions. This is not right to think that every messenger founded a new religion. Sometimes I ask my Christian brothers and sisters, and they confirm what I say, but I can also ask you, what's your opinion? I say, do you have any reason, any evidence to think that Jesus founded a new religion? We don't have. Moses founded a new religion. What we know is that they all invited us towards the same path of purifying ourselves and devoting our lives to God and bringing good to this world. Message is the same. The Quran says that Prophet Muhammad, Moses, Jesus, Jacob, Isaac, Ishmael, Abraham, Noah, all had the same message. Some people think that Islam, when we say Islam, even some Muslims have this misconception, is the name for this new religion, which emerged in Arab Peninsula in 610 AD. No. Islam is not named for a new religion. Islam is going back to the name that this call towards God had before. This is the same path. Muslims didn't have this desire and permission to call this Muhammadan faith or any other thing. When they say Islam means don't give any name to this. We just want to serve God. We don't bother what you call us. The reality is important. And I think today, any person who devotes himself to God belongs to the same religion. Whether we call him Muslim or Christian or Jews or Zoroastrian, whatever, if he's devoting himself to God, We should consider them as the same religious community. And if they don't follow God and will of God, even if they call themselves Muslim, they don't belong to this religion. The Quran says, those who are believers, those who are believers in the Quran, in Christianity, in Judaism, or Saba'ites, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ. Different faith communities. Whoever believes in God and the hereafter and does righteous deed, he has his reward with his Lord. So it's not a matter of names. If you call yourself doctor, you don't become doctor. If you call yourself father or mother, you don't become father or mother just by calling yourself. If I call myself Muslim, I don't become Muslim just because I have called myself Muslim. Am I devoting my life to God or not? If we devote ourselves to God, we are in the same tradition, in the same river. If not, even if my brother in blood, who speaks my language, goes to the same mosque, if he is not devoting himself to God, he is far from me if I am devoted. Or if I am not devoted, I am far from him if he is devoted. The relation between a devotee Christian and devotee Muslim is closer than the relation between two brothers or sisters from the same family that they don't devote themselves to God. This is what I understand from the Quran. Then, when it comes to Christians, the way God talks about Christians is amazing. For example, God says, you find the nearest people to Muslims are Christians. Time finished? So, the nearest people are Christians. Why? Two reasons are mentioned. One is they are not arrogant. It's a very important quality. Not to be arrogant, to be humble is very important. Second, the Quran says among them are priests and monks. I say, if a religion is looking at another religion as rival, who are the first troublemakers for you? They're religious leaders. Yeah? If Islam was a human, exercise or enterprise, should say these priests and monks are worst people in the world. They are, corrupt and this and that, to distance people from them. But the Quran says Christians are the nearest people to you. One reason is because among them there are priests and monks. And the other is because they are not arrogant. Value given to religious leaders. Value given to monasteries and churches. The Quran talks about sawami' wa bi'a wa masajid as places of remembering God, and how it's important that these places should be protected. The Quran talks about people who follow Jesus and how God has put in their hearts love and affection. It's very important. جَعَلْنَا فِي قُلُوبِ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُ رَأْفَةً وَرَحْمَةً. A true Christian, God has put in his DNA love, if it's a true Christian. And you don't find this mentioned, at least it's not on the record in the Quran about other people. That God says we have put in the hearts of those who follow Jesus love and affection. Another verse which is very important is that God says to Jesus, أَنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ. I am going to take you and raise you towards me. وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَجَاعِلُ الَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوكَ فَوْقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Minus, right? Okay. So, I am finishing. God said this. Unfortunately, this verse is not receiving attention. Unfortunately. God says to Jesus, I am going to put people who follow you above those who reject and deny till the day of judgment. This is very important. So, Christianity, or we can say followers of Jesus, includes, Muslims. We Muslims and Christians who follow Jesus, we are not going to disappear. At least this verse is up to the day of judgment. We are going to be there. People have to tolerate us. And final point, coming of Imam Mahdi and Jesus together. It has big implications. Thank you very much for your attention. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
So we thank both our speakers, and because we said we have to leave sharp by 5
Just give all the time to you.
So we can start with the questions, from
Shall I make a brief response, and then
Yes, please.
then I'll have to leave and leave you. I expect you'll probably go on talking a while longer. I have to head off across the field. Thank you,
please.
thank you, Dr. Shomali. It's been very rich. As you were speaking, and I'm conscious that you have devoted time to developing this dialogue. One of the types of dialogue I mentioned there, the dialogue of spiritual encounter. And very interested to hear that you've been part of that process of Ampleforth. I've been to Ampleforth, it's a wonderful place. I've been working on a rather different track, one of the other tracks, theological encounter. And I think one of the realities is we need these many different types. We need those who don't talk much about religion, but do practical things together. We need the diplomatic type of dialogue that I spoke about yesterday, which is a different thing again. It's like ambassadors between countries meeting and so on. We need many different kinds, different levels, different focus. I mean, as you spoke with great warmth, I felt jealous of the kind of work you had done. I'm proud of what I've been involved in. I think we've done some good work. Because it's intellectual work, it can sometimes be a little dry. That's the kind of downside. All of these approaches need each other, really. So I thank God for the work that you and Abbot Timothy, may he rest in peace, and others have been involved in. So thank you for that. And I feel personally challenged as to how this will go, and I look forward to seeing how you work out. I'm just going to, in a spirit of a positive spirit, if I could just, as they say, just throw out one or two questions.
Sure.
In the Christian tradition and the Christian reflection on the other, one very important theologian who was quite an influence at the time of Vatican II was a Catholic theologian called Rana. I'm sure his work is very important. And he is particularly associated with an idea that he developed this idea of anonymous Christians.
Yeah.
That he developed this idea